So let's go over here and look at this thing. This is very curious. It's some kind of model. I think I'll talk to Brian Lowe here, and he's going to tell me about it.
Yeah, great. Okay, so this is our supercomputer in a box, right? A containerized data center. It's a standard shipping container, 40 foot. We take that, we include a lot of IT. It can be customized. It can be blades, servers, storage. We have chilled water cooling. We have the flexibility of having a 40-foot or a 20-foot version. And this is really the way to go for people who want rapid deployment, the ability to save a lot of cost in terms of power and cooling. And of course, we can deliver these within a 6-week window for shipping to your site. So that's really a great way to get more visibility and more traction for your customer. Yeah.
So here's the other thing I think is interesting. Like for the young up-and-coming cluster nerd geek, you know, this would be a great Christmas present. This model here, you know, so they can get a feel for the clusters and, you know, look at the wiring and the nodes here. I think it's you know, if someone had given me this when I was a kid, I certainly would have grown up differently. So, but this is a great concept, and it sure beats having a real one of these around, I guess, at a trade show.
So I should point out that this is a scale model, and this is a lot more energy efficient way to get the customer interest without having to truck the whole unit in there. Yeah. So it's definitely the way to go for people that really want a fast, rapid, deployable data center.
This would also make a great coffee table. I don't think that the wife would appreciate it too much, but so we're at the other side of the HP booth, and I'm here to learn something about new I've never heard of before, a skinless server. So Doug Tucker is going to explain that to me.
Here we have a rack full of the SL6000 servers, as well as on the bottom we have our DL1000 server. What I'd like to do is show you a little bit about what's on the inside of each one of these servers. So if you come over here to the table, first thing we'll look at is the SL6000, and then I'll show you the DL1000. First thing that you noticed with the SL6000 is you have front cabling. There are two benefits for having front cabling. One is from a serviceability standpoint. All you'd have to do is walk up to the rack, unplug the cables, slide out the tray, you do whatever you need to do, slide the tray back in, plug up the cables. There's another advantage of having front cables, and that is from a cooling standpoint. So because you have the cables up front, that means you do not have the cables in the back. So that means the hot air has free exit. There's no cables in the back blocking the hot air. Also, one thing that you'll notice is the system board is flush mounted to the front of the chassis. So any cool air that is needed comes right in through the front over the system board. And because of that, then you have your hard drives off to the side. So you have, in this case, we actually use what would be considered a quick release carrier. The drive would come out, and then the drive goes in very quickly. We have 4 individual server trays in the SL6000. Right here we have the SL165Z G6 server. It's a 2 AMD processor, 16 DIMM slots, and then there's a low profile PCI slot. The next tray that we have, and I'll just bring it over here, the next tray that we have is the SL160Z. It's a 2-socket Nehalem processor, so it's 18 DIMM slots and 2 PCI slots. First PCI slot, this back PCI slot is really for internal SAS, so you can put a smart array controller here to control your internal hard drives and turn them into SAS. And then of course we have a low profile by 16 slot. Our next tray is the SL170Z. It's a half-width server tray or server, and the advantage here is really it's designed around internal storage. So you have up to 6 large form factor hard drives, so that's 6 terabytes of storage, and then you can actually do 8 small form factor drives. And then our last tray is really designed around density. So you have it's called our SL 2x170Z tray. So it's 2 independent servers on a single tray. So when you have this tray, you actually get 4 servers in a 2U space. And by having this half-width server, you don't lose anything from a functionality standpoint. So you can still do the 95 watt processors. You can still get the 16 gig of memory or 16 DIMM slots and the low profile PCI. So as you go from our 160, 165 all the way up to the 2x170, that's where you get the furthest differentiated from a rack mount server. So the example here is with the 2x170Z. This actually has the actual best spec power numbers today, with a spec power of 2316. So it's the most efficient server out there today. But some of the reasons for that efficiency is because now you have 4 servers in a 2U. So now you have 4 servers in a 2U, so you're twice as dense. If you compare that to typical 1U servers, is you would have 4 fans to cool it. 1U server may have 5 fans per 1U server, so that could be 20 fans as opposed to 4. You have 1 power supply to run the server, or you can have a second power supply to be redundant. So you're removing a lot of the extra components by having the shared infrastructure.
All right. And the skinless is that there's no lid on these.
There's no lid on the actual tray itself. The chassis would come with a lid, but for demonstration purposes, I have it open.
Okay.
And so the bottom is actually the top of the next tray.
So for years I've always wondered why someone doesn't do that, saving a lot of metal.
That's right.
And weight
it is, and actually, if you compare it to other servers, it actually saves you about 31% less weight.
Yeah, I often wondered about that. So someone finally did it. That's good.
So that's what we've done here on the SL6000. And now we have the DL1000. The DL1000 is really designed to appear as still a multi-node server, but it's more what you're familiar with our rack mount servers, which is the hot plug hard drives in the front, the cooling in the middle, and then your server nodes. And the advantages here are different than the SL. So the advantage here is you have the hot plug hard drives, but you also have the ability not only to do 4 nodes, but you have the ability to do 2 nodes and then add in risers to get more PCI slots.
Right.
So when you think of a 1U server, one of the dilemmas, I guess you'd say, is with the 1U server is not being able to put in a double wide GPU. So what you can do here is you can put a node here, buy the riser option card that gives you 3 PCI slots, and then you can put in a double wide GPU. And so that would be the equivalent of putting a double wide GPU in a 1U server, because you'd have 2 servers in a 2U form factor. And these are our scale-out HPC, some of our scale-out HPC servers.
Okay, well, thank you very much.
All right, well, thank you.